Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us this morning. This is Module 3, Working with Diverse Learners. This group is Group C, and our third round of presentations for our teachers distance learning training series. We will be presenting information today, and we'll have a follow-up question and answer session on August 10th, I believe. For any questions or support you may need, that you can let us know on August. You actually can put in the Q&A that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, and then we'll address them at the August 10th showing or session. So before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that your microphones are on mute. You'll only see the presenters in view. There are others that are online with us, but you won't be able to see them on your screen. You will only be able to see the presenters here on the screen. If you haven't already, I believe Tamara put on the chat to log in, type in your name, your grade, your position, your school and email address on the chat box, okay? If you need to ask any questions while the presentation is going on, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box. We're asking that you put all questions in your Q&A box there, and any other discussions can happen on the chat box. And that chat box is where you're also logging in your name and your information that we're asking for this session. Yes, this session will be recorded, and it will be sent, the link will be sent to your principal and shared to be shared with you later. Last, there will be an evaluation link that will be posted on the chat at the end of this session, and we ask that you pretty please take that evaluation so we can get the feedback from you guys on the sessions that you're on the information that you're going to hear today. Okay, so before we actually begin our presentation on working with diverse learners, we want to show you this short video. And this video is coming from our deputy, Joe Sanchez, and the Curriculum and Instruction Division. And it basically, I'm trying to bring it up here. It basically talks about, gives you information on the 3 modes of learning or the 3 models of learning and lesson planning. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the short video.
Day, and welcome to our Wednesday module training. My name is Algarito from the Division of Curriculum and Instruction, and I'd like to acknowledge all the good people here at CNI who helped put all of these trainings together. They include all our amazing instructional coaches.
Let me get the audio on. Oh, it is. Sorry.
All the learners who took their time out to get this Day, and welcome to our Wednesday module training. My name is Algarito from the Division of Curriculum and Instruction, and I'd like to acknowledge all the good people here at CNI who helped put all of these trainings together. They include all our amazing instructional coaches, our project leads Michelle Camacho, Eloise Sanchez, and Joshua Blas, and of course our beloved Deputy Superintendent, Joe Sanchez. I'd like to acknowledge all the learners who took their time out to get this training during your summer break especially. What you've learned so far includes Module 1, Microsoft Apps, where you were introduced to the basics of Microsoft with our focus on Microsoft Word. This was a key application that we felt would be wisely used during all 3 of our models of learning. Module 2, in our Google Classroom training, learners had a chance to see one of our basic LMS platforms, which is familiar with many of our teachers and is one of the most used platforms around the nation. Just to recap real quick, our models of learning. By now, everybody should have learned about the 3 models of learning. They are home learning, online instruction, face-to-face, and home learning hard copy instruction. Those Those are the three models. All three were referenced by Deputy Sanchez in a screencast that is available for your reference on the GDOE YouTube page. But the key points of the models of learning are as follows. First off, number one, the models are a culmination of ideas that are being globally discussed, and our models are not unusual to many other districts. We are all defining the new norm together as a nation and as a planet. The second point, GDO teachers, you are not alone. You have a support system, not just with us at GDOE headquarters, but also amongst your colleagues and amongst teachers within your same subject area. Collaboration already exists in GDOE, and you will have support all around. Number three, a growth mindset is necessary as we continue. We will not have a perfect situation. Take your time and do not rush. Feel free to spend the first week or 2 weeks helping your students adjust. Recognize setbacks and practice. Practice with your students how to adjust. Give practice homework and troubleshoot situations that may cause issues. How they turn in assignments, how they communicate with you. All of those may be issues in the beginning. Take your time. Don't worry so much about getting straight into content. Those are three key things about these three models of learning that you should keep in mind. As far as our key points in lesson plan designs, we want you to, number one, keep them parent and student friendly. As you write your lessons, remember that many of your lessons will be taken home. We need to provide parents the type of support they will need in order to work in partnership with us. Explain your content is number two. Don't assume parents will know the content or even know why the content is being taught. Give them clear instructions and provide background knowledge. Number three, engage your learners during your lessons by giving them step-by-step instructions. Provide clear office hours for after and ways to communicate with you if they need support. And implement strategies for your diverse learners such as SPED, ESL, and GATE students. Now remember, the modules we're giving you are basic training tools to help you in the classroom. Some may be experienced in the content that we're teaching, and some of you may not. Take notes and feel free to reference any resources that are made available. Now, introducing Module 3, Diverse Learners. You will be learning in this module how to identify the characteristics of exceptional learners, learning challenges of the exceptional learner, basic accommodations, and how to assist exceptional learners in the 3 different learning modules. We hope you enjoy our next module, and I'll hand you off to them now. Thank you, and have a great day.
Okay, so that was our short message from Joe Sanchez in the Curriculum and Instruction Department on the 3 models of learning and lesson planning. Your principals should also have another video that Joe Sanchez with the same message that they can share with you later on if you wanted to see that. In addition, that video will also be a part of our Zoom meeting recording here, so you can also review it at that time too. Let me get back to our screen. Oh. Okay, so the purpose of this module for the advanced participants here today, if you have that background in we're working with diverse learners, this may be refresher information for you. However, please take advantage of this presentation as a thought to how you may want to share the information or the strategies with your parents or your students as you plan for the 3 models of learning. Okay. But the purpose of this module is to give you that basic information for special education, English as a second language, and gifted and talented education to help support lesson planning for the 3 models of learning. Our objectives for today will be, by the end of this session, you will be able to identify characteristics of diverse learners. You'll be able to identify the challenges of diverse learners. You will acquire some strategies to support diverse learners, and you will identify considerations to support diverse learners with the 3 models of learning. You'll be taking in a lot. That's a lot of objectives you'll be taking in today. But however, please keep in mind that the instructional coaches, including myself, would be out at the school sites to support you with any of this information that you're going to be getting today, and to help you to plan as you open up your school year and you move along. So we're going to begin with special education. And here to present to you today for special education would be myself. My name is Debbie Shimizu. I'm an instructional coach. I also have Ron Gogo, who is also an instructional coach with me. Christine Hernandez, who's an instructional coach also with Curriculum and Instruction Division, and Noreen Guzman. Okay, we're going to pause for a minute real quick because they're going to adjust the PowerPoint presentation for us. One moment.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to begin with our presentation on special education. And here to present to you the first part of special education is Ron Gogo.
Good morning, everyone. So to begin our presentation with special education, we wanted to start with governance. Some things to know is that we're not speaking on behalf of special education. Okay, so although we're presenting the information under special education, we wanted to acknowledge first governance. As you know, anything related to special education falls under IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And so this federal law governs how services are delivered. It governs services, and also it ensures FAPE and parent participation. So FAPE is free and appropriate public education. And then of course, it also ensures parent participation. So special education is a specially designed instruction at no cost to the parents. And it's designed to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. So there are 13 labeling disabilities that fall under IDEA and special education. However, for the purposes of this session, we're going to be focusing on 3 of them, and these 3 are the largest amount of. There are a large number of students within the Department of Education that are receiving special education under these labeling categories. And they are autism, other health impairment, and specific learning disability. So for the purposes of this presentation, from here on out, if I remember, specific learning disability is also commonly known as students with SLD. So this is a chart. This information was pulled on December 1st of 2019. And so the first thing that I wanted to point out in regards to the number of students under each category is that these numbers will be slightly different, maybe not too much, but they'll definitely be different. As you know, we're starting a new school year. And so because this information was taken in December, between December and August, there are students receiving special education and related services that may have graduated. They may have transferred off island. And if they met the ultimate goal of special education, they may no longer need special education and related services. So these numbers will drop. But we wanted to focus on these three primarily because there is a good chance that there's going to be one or more of these students in your roster, your class roster. So we take a look at the numbers. We have 241 students who are receiving services as students with autism. There are 212 students who are receiving services under the category of other health impairment. And then there are 1,013 students who are receiving special education and related services under the category of specific learning disability or SLD. So beginning with our largest number of 1,013, we wanted to take a look at what is a specific learning disability or SLD. So a specific learning disability is a disorder of one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding spoken or written language that impacts the student's ability to speak, read, write, spell, and do math calculations. Under this term also includes three medical categories, which is dyslexia, dysgraphia, and developmental aphasia. And I'll go into what those are on the next slide. Please note that this term does not include learning problems that are primarily a result of another disability, be it visual, hearing, or motor, as those students may not have any psychological deficits. So here are some common characteristics of a student with a specific learning disability. Students with SLD make consistent reading and spelling errors. And if you remember the definition that I just gave, that they have deficits in processing spoken and written language. So it just kind of flows right in that naturally these students will have learning deficits with reading, spelling. They also make common errors. And I'm going to show you an example of a student with a specific learning disabilities work submission and work sample so that we can see that via this definition or via these characteristics that they do manifest into their day-to-day work. So students with specific learning disabilities, they make common reading and spelling errors. They also have reversals, or they make letter formation slightly different. They struggle with writing within a defined space. They reverse letters. For a common example would be the word is dog, but the student begins the word DOG with the letter B. So that would be a reversal. There's inversions, and this is basically when a student forms the letter opposite. So instead of writing the letter M, they will instead use the letter W. So that would be an inversion. And then there's transpositions. It's words with this containing the same letters, but the student will indicate instead of, for example, the word left, L-E-F-T, they may write down the word felt, F-E-L-T. And so it has the same letters. Clearly, these words mean different things, but that would be an example of a transposition. And then, of course, the final one would be substitutions, and that is words that mean the same thing, but they instead use So an example would be home. Home and house. Technically, they mean the same place, but in the sentence, the student will use the word house instead of the word home. And then of course, there would be grammar issues in their sentence structure. So here are the common types of SLD. There's dyslexia. And dyslexia is basically when a person has difficulty processing letters and sounds. For example, the word bat, at. It's hard to make those letter sounds or write those letter formations. There's dyscalculia, and a learner who's has deficits being dyscalculic. They have issues with, the natural number graphs, the quantifying numbers, and then of course learning procedural number facts. So we're going to see issues with their computation in math problems. And then finally, there's dysgraphia, and dysgraphia is a writing disability where a person, where we see it, the manifestation of dysgraphia with, of course, those letter formations and writing within a defined space. So this is an activity that, we'll just spend a minute on. We've decided to use it, and I'm almost certain, let's see, how many participants do we have?
We have 100.
Okay, so also I wanted to mention that the participants in this session, they go across the grade level. So we do have teacher participants in elementary, middle, and high. So hi. Anyway, so this is a letter, an activity rather, that I'm almost certain 95% of you have already engaged in. And the reason we've decided to go ahead and utilize it, if in the event it was never presented to you appropriately, it actually shows the challenges between the left and right brain. And so if you take a look at the words, the word yellow is, the text is colored purple. And so in this activity, we're going to ask you to, instead of reading the word, to say the letter. So for example, on row 1, column 1, the word is yellow, but the correct response that we want is purple. So I'm going to give you 20, 30 seconds to just say the color and not read the word. But the issue here, the challenge here rather, is for you to do it as fluently and as quickly as possible. Okay, so remember that we're asking you to say the word or say the color and not the word. You can begin. So if for those of you who did engage in the activity, and we know who you are, no, I'm just kidding, we don't know who you are. So for those of you who did engage in the activity, what you should have felt, and this is what I felt when, maybe not so much now, because this is probably like my 1,000th time that I've participated in this activity, but what you should have sort of seen is the struggle between the left and right brain, where one side wants to read the word, which is what comes naturally, and the other hemisphere of the brain challenges that natural will to read the word, because we need the correct response is the color. So there should have been some sort of disconnect, and it should have been a challenge for you to, as quickly and as fluently, say the color and not the word. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what a student with a specific learning disability, those are the challenges of the processing. So here is another activity, and I'm pretty sure, again, most of you have seen it. But the reason we continue to utilize it, first and foremost, is this is a student work sample of one of our very own, a student from GDOE. And so shout out to the teacher who gave this assignment. Essentially what the assignment was the teacher gave them a writing prompt, and then the students were supposed to write their response. So if we take a look at the student's work sample, you're going to notice that clearly already we see dysgraphia. We already see that the student, the manifestation of their disability, it challenges them to form these letters. And this is a high school student, by the way. So it was challenging for the student to form the letters, and in some areas of this assignment submission, we're seeing that there were also challenges with writing these words within the defined space. You'll also notice some reversals of letters. So really, what the student wrote was B, when what they should have written or what they should have formed on their response is the letter D. So we see that based on the common characteristics of a student with a specific learning disability, we're seeing that here on this activity. So for the benefit of those and myself, so the teacher collected the assignment and then asked the student to read his or her assignment submission back to the teacher. And this is and the teacher jotted down verbatim what the student said. So I'm going to read this for you. I suspect that the child with a learning disability must frequently experience an Alice in Wonderland existence. Often we find that he must cope with an unstable world, inconsistent adults, and haphazard perceptions. He's confused by the crazy symbols we give him, pressured by the length of time to do it, and frustrated by his repeated failures. He does not learn the traditional way, and so we must teach him differently. So, although if you take a look that clearly from this assignment submission, we're not getting the essence of what the student wanted or intended to say. He did say it. It just, would have been a struggle for the teacher to capture the essence of the student's response, right? And so if we take a look at this response, we're going to see that there was an amazing amount of thought that went into his writing response and submission. And this actually shows that our students with specific learning, and actually any student with a disability, that one, they can learn, and two, if we provide them the access and the opportunity and the accommodations, they can also flourish. And so with this particular example, we're seeing that there is a large amount of thought that went behind the assignment submission. And clearly, for some students, this particular student, he was able to also express his frustrations with his learning disability. So what are some accommodations? I mentioned that in the previous slide. And so again, the first thing that I would like for you all to know is that accommodations are just supports that are given to the student. It's almost like leveling the playing field. It's taking a look at what are their challenges, what are their deficits, and providing supports so that the student can then complete the lesson assignment or engage in the learning. And what was I going to say? Accommodations do not change the expectation of what the teacher wants the student to learn, or what the objectives are. It simply just provides support so that the student can access that learning, that level of learning, and also participate and engage in the learning. So here are some accommodations. And what I would like to do with the accommodations that we've listed is think about the three learning models, right? We have the face-to-face, we have the home learning hard copy, and the home learning online. And so can we still provide accommodations to students that we're not going to see on a regular basis? And the answer is absolutely. You know, with the new technology that we have access to, gone are the days of having to buy a tape recorder and ensuring that the parent has a tape recorder to utilize at home. Most families have smartphones, and so you can definitely send an audio message or a voice recording via the telephone. Provide large print. That's a simple solution, is just increase the font size. For those of you who attended Module 1, the presenters of Module 1, they did show how you can increase the font size. Reduce the number of items per page. You take a look at what it is that, you know, what the objectives are. And if you're giving your typical student 20 items to answer, you can give your student with a disability 10 or maybe 5. And if we remember the student submission, there is frustration that our students with specific learning disabilities that they have to deal with and that they're challenged with. And so, you know, one of the things is to alleviate the frustration is to reduce the number of items that you would like the student to answer. You can provide a designated reader at home. That's the older sibling, that's the uncle or aunt, it's mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, right? So you can do that. In the face-to-face classroom, that's your model student, that's your teacher's assistant, that's your parent-educator should your student have a parent-educator written in their IEP. Present instructions orally, again, with the use of smartphone and technology, you could do that. You can create screencasts, post them into your Google Classroom. You can pull videos from YouTube and other resources that you know you have access to. Responses, we can allow for verbal responses. The parent can record the student responses and then send them to you. If they're in the face-to-face classroom, then of course they can respond to you orally in the class. You can schedule a different time. Sometimes our students are not comfortable participating in front of their typical peers, and so you can have them respond to their answers orally during recess or the last 5 minutes. Creativity, you know, you can exercise your creativity when you're looking for responses or for the responses. You can allow for the voice recording. You can permit responses to be given via the computer. Some of our new generation, not some, but all of our new generation students that are coming up into the classroom, they are already technology proficient. You know, I have a 3-year-old niece who can navigate her parents' smartphone better than I can. And then permit answers to be recorded directly into the test or booklet. And that'll work for your hard copy home learning option. So scheduling. Of course, we want to provide accommodations for assessments, again, because of the level of anxiety, because of the frustration that our students deal with. We can administer the tests over several time sessions over several days. So for the home learner component, if they're not able to do the assessment, you can always schedule that assessment or on another day or even at another time. And that also works with our face-to-face model of learning. We're not bound to having the students participate and engage in their assessments at the same time as their typical peers. So some of our students, they take medication, and some of the side effects for medication is is grogginess, it's to be drowsy. And so you can either administer this test on a different day. You can also administer this test at a different time that's opposite when the medication is administered. You can give it to them before they take it. You can give it to them after, and they had time to rest. Okay. So other accommodations, there's timing. We can allow for frequent breaks. If we take a look at our student submission, there was a level of frustration because of the amount of time the student was expected to submit their responses. You can also allow extended time for tasks. Now, one of the things that I want to really point out and impress upon you is that with timing, it's not just like, you know, anything goes. If an assignment for your typical student, if the assignment for their completion is 3 days, double it for your student with a disability and give them 6 days. And so that way it's not, you know, we'll get to that assignment whenever we have time. No, there's still a deadline and a timeline for your submission. And we're also accommodating, you know, your processing time and the amount of time that it's going to take for you to complete your assignment, but it's not like this submitted at any time. For setting, there's preferential seating in the classroom. Of course, that's in front of the chalkboard, next to the teacher, next to a model student. At home, it could be working alongside a parent, an older sibling, a grandparent, uncle or aunt. Preferential seating can also be in an area of the house that's conducive to learning. And then also for special lighting and acoustics. And I want to bring this back up for when we talk about our students on the autism spectrum. Provide space with minimal distractions. If, you know, your windows are wide open and the view is the neighbor's kids playing, maybe we might want to move the student or, you know, draw the curtains. And then also administer the test in a private room or alternative test site. On the campus, that could be in the, you know, the main office, it could be in the counselor's office, it could be in the library, and then of course at home, wherever the parent feels, you know, is the place that's most conducive. So the next disability, which is our second highest number of students receiving special education and related services, is our students on the autism spectrum. And some facts to note. Again, I do want to point out that this information was as of December 12th of 2019. But with the statistical facts, that probably has not changed too much. But some of the things to know is that autism occurs in 1 out of every 59 live births. Autism is 5 times more prevalent in males than it is in females. So if we take a look at our local stats, for student receiving special education and related services with GDOE, we have 196 males and 45 females. And so autism can be observed as early as the age of 3, but typically for medical or educational diagnosis, that typically happens later. So there are some common characteristics of a student with autism, and the thing to keep in mind is autism is a spectrum. So we have our more severe or lower functioning students on the spectrum, and then of course we have our students who are higher functioning and at the other end of the spectrum. And so with autism, it's important to note that one size does not fit all here with our students on the spectrum, but there are 3 areas of autism, and this is their autism is a developmental disability. It significantly affects a student's verbal and nonverbal communication, as well as their social interaction and their behavior. There are some characteristics that are common characteristics that are associated with students on the spectrum. There's the repetitive activities, this insistence of sameness, the same type of food, the same routine, the same personnel. There's also resistance to change. So we may see some behavior manifestations when the environment changes, even if it's slightly, and then also any changes in a student's daily routine. And there are all students on the spectrum, they also have unusual sensory responses. They're either hypersensitive to it or hyposensitive to it. So some behavior characteristics, although every child with autism is different, there are several common behavior characteristics. Some students display stereotypes or repetitive movements. This challenge can take the form of rocking, finger flicking, tapping, hand flapping of their hands and arms. Other challenges could be, again, the insistence of sameness that I've mentioned, and then also unusual sensory responses. So as I said, there are 3 areas, and we've clumped the social and communication together because, you know, we feel that these two areas of deficits, they kind of go hand in hand. So there, a common challenge in this deficit is the lack of social emotional reciprocity. You may see this form of a student not being able to carry a conversation or the failure to initiate or respond to social interactions. And then also there are deficits in their nonverbal and communicative behaviors that's used in social interaction. So a prime example, and some of you may have already observed this, is a student on the spectrum's response can come off as being rude and very direct, but just know that our student on the spectrum has no clue that that they actually said something that might be offensive, right? And so it's of course our job to just remind them of what the appropriate behavior response is and work with the student. Accommodations for autism, again, I want everyone to keep in mind that this is not a one-size-fits-all. It's really a lot of trial and error, and you know, take time to observe your student and take time to make notes of how their behavior manifests in the classroom or with activities or with any change of routine, and then we can think about what are some of the accommodations that we can put in place to help and assist the student navigate through the day. So there is simplify work into smaller demands. Again, keeping in mind that our students on the spectrum, they have sensory issues, so and sensory needs, and so you know, if you're throwing everything and the kitchen sink at them, just expect that there's going to be behavior challenges that are going to follow. Avoid multiple senses working at the same time. Again, addressing their hyper or hyposense reaction and sensory responses. Prepare the child about upcoming changes. And again, depending on you know, the student's ability, our students who are on the lower end of the spectrum, you may need to use visual aids and cues. And then our students who are higher in the spectrum, that's a simple verbal reminder that happens prior to the change. And then provide visual or written rather than auditory instructions. Again, for sensory issues, if we notice that our students are putting their hands over their ears, then you know, we could use earplugs or headphones in the hallways and in the lunchrooms, generally wherever you know it's loudest on the campus. And at home, of course, then it's a matter of adjusting the volume of the TV or just not have the TV on when it's time to work. Provide warning and preparation when changes are anticipated. Identify a quiet area where the student can take time out to kind of regroup, and then use visual schedules and graphic organizers. So this is a video that I want to show you, and it's really, Carly is an actual person with autism, and so it gives us a glimpse into a day as a person with autism. share.
I can't wait for a coffee. Oh, hello, barista.
What do you girls want?
Skim soy latte? Taryn, soy can't be skim.
Hot chocolate? Orange juice?
No, Dad, I want a coffee. Hot chocolate? Great.
So I was thinking of going to Sarah's later. Could you give me a ride?
Yeah, sure. Are you cool with taking your sister?
Yeah.
Wait, what? I have my own plan.
Carly.
Okay, I'll see you tonight, okay?
Carly. How can I help?
Okay, so that was a video of Carly. Again, she's a person with autism, and if you watched during the video that she was given choices, and because of her disability, she has deficits with verbal communication, and she couldn't really, although she wanted that coffee, and I agree with you, Carly, we should totally get coffee all the time. You know, she could not convey her needs and her wants, but I will say that they're, you know, with all students, again, it's a matter of finding that right accommodation. And so when Carly was put in front of a keyboard, she found her voice and was able to communicate with everybody via the keyboard. So so now we're going to you sure? Yeah. One moment, I'm sorry. Can I just keep going to this? Okay. All right. So
So to bring up that PowerPoint too again, it's showing that.
okay. Woo! Thank you for your patience. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pass the podium over to Miss Christine Hernandez, who's an instructional coach, and she will go over the last disability, which is our students with other health impairments. So the view is going to get better.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Whew. For a second there, I was like sweating bullets. All right, so like Ron said, we're going to go over the last disability that we're going to share this morning, and that is, hold on. Okay. So it's always me, so just, there you go. All right, so the last one is other health impairment, or OHI. So what's important to know is that other health impairment is an umbrella term that really encompasses hundreds of types of medical conditions. What's important to know is that what's central to to all the disabilities that fall under OHI is that the child must have limited strength, vitality, or alertness, and that is all due to the chronic health impairment. And Deb, can you do me a favor? There. Oops. All right, so we're going to go on to the next one. Hold on, sorry. So this is just kind of one of the things that you may encounter as you're doing distance learning again. So, so anyway, going back, so they must have limited strength, vitality, and alertness. And again, it's due to the chronic health impairment, and that impairment actually negatively impacts their educational performance. So listed here are just a couple or a few common medical conditions that some of our students who are eligible for special education and related services experience. And these are asthma, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, attention deficit disorder, epilepsy, diabetes, and lupus. So there's many more. So again, today we wanted to go over some accommodations for other health impairment, again, specific to ADHD. And we wanted to focus on ADHD because ADHD is a pretty common condition that our students under OHI experience. It's also important to note that many of these accommodations may be used throughout all three models of learning. So whether it be face-to-face, whether it be online learning, or hard copy. So accommodations targeting classroom environment. One of them, if you notice, is flexible seating. So for instance, rather than, if they're face-to-face, rather than having them sit, if they need to stand, you can make them stand while they do their work. And that's the same thing at home too. Hard copy as well. So find a quiet space in the classroom or at home that has very little to no foot traffic and will just help minimize the distractions. It's very important also to make sure that parents also know that these are some of the accommodations that our students with ADHD can avail of. So, and be very clear when you're providing these accommodations or you're putting them in your lessons, be very clear as to what the expectations are so that there's no questions that parents will have. I try to alleviate all those questions that they may have. Again, a couple ways to help the student with their organizational skills. You can see on the other side is to maybe assign notebooks. Different color, you can color code the notebooks. You can also provide extra set of copies for books at home. So instead of having them, carry it around if they're doing face-to-face, instead of having them carry it to school and back home, you can let them have a copy. If there's enough sets, have them a copy at home. Again, color code the material so that everything is color coded for each of the subject areas. Or you can even have the notes sent home. They don't have to take the notes. You can have the notes provided already, especially for those that are going to be doing the work at home. Sometimes the mouse gets stuck and my heart starts beating, but so when we look at accommodations for completing assignments, maybe you can try to minimize the number of questions or problems per worksheet. You know, just even typicals, right? If once they see this worksheet full of problems, already they start to panic because there's just a lot to do. So same with our students with ADHD, when there's just a lot, it becomes overwhelming. So try to minimize, and that again will work across all three models of learning. You can also schedule frequent short quizzes or take a long, one, rather than one long test, you can kind of break it up into chunks. Again, make it more manageable for our students. You can also look at grading for content and not the neatness of the work. Okay, so these are some things that you can go over them later. And then in terms of giving instructions, some accommodations to consider is to not only give the direction out loud, but also have it in writing. You know, especially if it's going to go home, have it in writing so that parents know exactly what to do. Parents and students know exactly what to do, and again, there's no confusion. And then, or have them repeat what you need them to, what you're asking them to do. You know, check for that quick understanding for them. Keep the instructions simple, clear, and concrete. Okay, and that again is throughout all three models. If your student needs visuals, use them. Okay, a lot of times the first couple of weeks you're going to get to know your student. Talk to parents. Again, talk to parents, and Debbie will go over a sample of that. But you know, talk to parents, find out, especially if you're not going to be able to see them face to face in that classroom. Get to know your students, but you know, the best way is to talk to parents and see if they need these visuals, then provide it. Another thing, one of the ways to manage behaviors, even at home, is to provide some concrete prizes or gifts for them. And again, it doesn't have to be something that's store-bought. It could be a pat on the shoulder. At home, parents can or even pass little notes and put it on the table and say, you're doing a great job. You know, our students, even those little things mean a lot, because then now they know, hey, my teacher, my mom, and my dad they're recognizing what I'm doing. So I want to make sure that I continue. It doesn't have to be something that you buy. Another thing that you can do to manage behavior is, if parents are having some issues with behaviors at home because of the work, is have that discussion with parents. You know, you can call, you can email, but have that discussion and see maybe there's something that we can do on our end to help minimize those behaviors. So this is an activity that we wanted to, actually it's a video that we wanted to share, and I'll just show it to you real quick.
Okay, put away your books. We're gonna play a game. In this game, we're gonna find homes for the animals. Listen to me carefully. In front of you are some animal cards and a grid. I'm gonna tell you where to move each animal card so every animal ends up in the right place on the grid. Are you ready? Everyone take the snake card. Now look at the grid. Put the snake card on the camel in the grid. Got it? Good. Now take the bird card and put it on the kangaroo in the grid. Dylan, are you with us? Okay. Now take the monkey. Put it on the
I don't have a monkey.
Is that yours on the floor? Now find the kangaroo card. It belongs on the
These moms went to, remember?
Emma and Maddie, pay attention. Dylan, are you with us?
What?
Okay, now everyone, look at the octopus.
Ew, weird.
You're great. Now look for the elephant. Jacob and Sophia, please stop. Put the elephant on the board. I want you to place the rhino on
We
top
saw
of it.
Dino. I saw rhinoceros at the zoo when I went with my
Okay,
mom.
put the monkey on the side. Jaden, don't interrupt.
I don't have any
And then put the
animals
shark
left.
on the
Miss
elephant, and on the
Aldano,
shark,
my
put the
game
camel.
is missing a piece.
Ready? Now flip your cards over. What do you see?
Hold on, coming back. What do you- So you're gonna notice from that video, that's basically like your typical classroom, right? And so our students with ADHD, at one point you'll notice that the teacher's voice just kind of drowned out in the background, and all the student was hearing was all the classmates, the truck outside blowing its horn. And that's why we ask, try to find a place that in the classroom or at home that provides minimal distractions so that those things are not an issue. Okay, and again, all those things will ultimately affect the student's ability to focus and follow along the lesson, regardless if it's in the classroom face-to-face or at home. So now that we know that these are some of the things that our students with ADHD experience, now we need to focus and take a step back and say, okay, so what are some things that we can do to minimize those distractions, both in the classroom and face-to-face? All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Debbie. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, I'm back. Here we go. So we're going to talk about some general strategies that you can possibly use with the suggestions that we are giving today. Here we go. So some general strategies you'll see are listed down. There are 4 of them that we put up here for you to consider as you prepare to teach with, as you know, your student with a disability. So many of the strategies are used in a resource room or on a daily basis. However, please know that these strategies may also be used when planning for students who will be or may be assessing their education through an online or through a hard copy model. Okay, so as you can see, the 4 strategies listed here are to communicate often and consistently with family, which is what Chris had mentioned earlier. Explicit instruction is another one, visual supports, and differentiated instruction. So starting off with communicating with your parents, right? Before developing and even considering a lesson plan, it is important that as teachers, we communicate with students and their families. A good first step to begin is with this family support plan. And this family support plan was actually developed by our own Division of Special Education and was shared out with many. If you haven't already seen this already, it is also on their website, on the special education website under our GDOE website. So you can find it there, but this is especially helpful to use if you have any, a student that is assessing their education online or through hard copy. And the first thing you need to do is to be able to understand your child and your child's, or your student actually, and your student's needs at home and what it's like at home with, in their household, what do schedules look like at home and stuff, so that you can be better accommodate your student when you're actually planning. It helps to tailor the instruction for each student, and it actually has some driving questions in there that can help you prepare for this child as you plan for them. The next suggestion or recommendation is actually, I'm sorry, not the next one. Let me talk to you first about a little bit more about communicating with the student and family. When you use that, when you communicate with your student and family, you're first going to start with the behavior plan. I mean, sorry, not the behavior plan, the family plan that we actually just did. I showed you previously. But here are some things that you may want to consider when you're communicating with your students and your families. Number one, make the personal connections with the family. If they are unable to access video calls, maybe you might want to reach out to them by phone or by text, if that's available. You might want to create and provide some training resources in the areas of communication and literacy for families to use, right? Give them that resource to use at home. Be sure to schedule regular meetings with the family. And this is so important because in these meetings, you can discuss their progress. You can check to see how they're doing with the learning and provide support at this time. And I believe this year they're giving us Fridays also to communicate with parents. We won't be having students on Friday, so that's the time for us to reach out to our students and our families, to our parents, to communicate. Number 4 is keep a log, of each time you need to contact the family. I strongly suggest that you have those notes because you're going to be talking to many different families, many different parents, and you want to make sure, right, that you're documenting what you last spoke about, what you last supported them with, and how you can further support them. So be sure to keep notes of any resources that they may need or any follow-ups. Number 5, you may use language that can be understood, or please use language that can be understood. Try to avoid educational jargon because a lot of parents are teachers, of course, and they may not understand our educational jargon. Try to make your language simple and easy for them to understand, leaving little or very, very little interpretation for them on their own, right? And if the child needs an interpreter, please request for one through the department. If the family has access to watch videos, use this source. Videos, you can even video yourself as the teacher, teaching your lesson, and share it with your students, so your students can actually keep reviewing it and keep accessing it later on. And they can go back to the strategies you're modeling and be able to go through it as many times as they need. Ask them what are your child's current successes and challenges. Use this information to inform the next steps of your planning. And it is important to remind the family that it is okay if it is not perfect or if things do not get completed. Our kids, okay? So now I'm going to move on to the next recommendation, which is explicit instruction. And explicit instruction is a highly effective instructional strategy. It is a way to deliver direct, structured instruction for students. And this is good from students from kindergarten all the way up through high schoolers. It actually helps make lessons clearer and shows students how to start and then succeed at the task as they go through these explicit instructions. There are 3 sequential steps for explicit instruction, and we're going to quickly go through those 3. Those 3 steps are the modeling, guided or directed practice, and independent practice. So explicit instruction with modeling, this step consists of the teacher demonstrating a task for a student and describing exactly what is being done as it is being done. So the goal of this modeling step is for teachers to explicitly state the what, the why, the how, the when, and the where of what they are doing, right? The information you are giving them. You want to present this information in smaller units and then gradually go up in a sequence. And it's usually range from simple to more complex, right? So when we do this, range it from simple to more complex, we're actually addressing our students with learning disabilities needs, right? The teacher can also use examples of what to do and what not to do, and directly maybe highlight some of the skills that are being taught to the student. So explicit instruction will actually help highlight skills that the students are trying to learn or the teacher is trying to teach, and it will help facilitate the students' understanding or of the learning objectives. Of course, we all start with that learning objectives, right? So for example, let's say that we have little Johnny, and little Johnny's goal for the week is to independently make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So now I know that I'm going to implement explicit instruction, right, with Johnny. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to model it for him. As a teacher, I am going to make sure that I am verbalizing my thoughts out loud. So as I am modeling it, I'm actually verbalizing what I'm doing. For example, we said we wanted to address in modeling the what, the why, the how, when, and here. So for the what, maybe I might say, what am I going to make? And I'm verbalizing this out loud as I'm teaching it to Johnny and I'm modeling. I'm going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And we are going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Why? Maybe to help me learn things in a sequential order. So I'm going to use making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich help me learn that sequential order. The how part of it, right? Maybe you might ask the question, how am I going to make this sandwich? I'm going to think out loud as I do this thought process, okay? So that Johnny can actually see what I'm doing and he can actually hear, right? And match what I'm saying to the actions I'm doing, right? And be able to tackle that task. He can also hear my thought process of me troubleshooting or actually thinking out how am I going to make this sandwich, right? And I'm showing Johnny how I can organize my thoughts, right? So maybe I might say out loud, what are some of the things that I may need to make my peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Oh yes, maybe I might need bread. I might need peanut butter. I might need jelly, a butter knife, right? Because I don't need to spread that peanut butter and jelly on my bread. And maybe, yeah, I'll need a plate, right? And yes, I must wash my hands, especially at this time, right? Before we do anything, we must wash our hands. So as you can see, I'm kind of verbalizing my thoughts and going through a process so that little Johnny can understand what I'm doing. So I'm explicitly stating what I'm going to do, what my thoughts are, and I'm going to model it all the way through. So the first thing is I might say is, okay, I'm going to go wash my hands and actually go to the sink, wash my hands, show Johnny I'm doing that before I actually start my process. And then of course you will verbalize yourself step by step and give that step by step instructions on how to make that sandwich while modeling or showing Johnny how to make that sandwich. And then the when and the where, don't forget to tell Johnny, we are going to make this peanut butter and jelly sandwich in class or here today in class. Maybe Johnny might be at home, but here in class today, right? And we're gonna know how to do this by the end of the week, right? So it's important to remember that at this step, the teacher is not asking students the question. The teacher is actually verbalizing and answering the questions herself so that while they're demonstrating so that Johnny can actually hear that thought process. Okay, moving along to the guided practice or the direct practice of explicit instruction. After you model, the next step, of course, would be this. And this allows students to succeed while achieving the desired learning objective, right? This is the part where we're going to work together with Johnny and we're going to ask Johnny to do it with us, right? So it's going to actually, this step is actually going to help students to gain the confidence and motivation that is necessary to continue their learning. So we're going to give Johnny that opportunity to try the task on their own that was just modeled by us, right? We're going to make sure that we give Johnny the proper feedback as he is doing it. And we're going to be watching him to see what steps, right, he's doing to make sure it's done in the correct step manner, since that is our objective, right? We want to actually verify and adjust and consolidate any deep, any understanding, deepen his understanding of what learning is taking place at this time. So we are trying to connect the learning with the objectives and with what already is in Johnny's long-term memory, with what he may know about making that sandwich. So at this point, we're guiding Johnny through. We're helping him by giving him feedback, by watching all the way through, and of course, making that connection for Johnny. Now, if I'm going back to the example of making that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, this step will require the teacher to, of course, guide the students through. And the thought process will be verbalized, like I said, but now the students are asked, of course, the questions. And together with the teacher, the student is answering and trying out that task. So this is actually that do part for your student. The third part of explicit instruction is the independent practice, right? And this is the part where the students are going to actually be able to show their learning in the situation that you have just asked. So now they're going to show you that I can independently make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich myself, right? It includes that opportunity, of course, like I said, for them to test out their understanding, their knowledge, and be able to show you and perform for you at the highest level of mastery that they can. Okay, so at this point again, Johnny may be able to make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich on his own, which would have met the our activity task, and in turn, of course, as the teacher views what Johnny is doing and how he does it and gives feedback, she can determine whether Johnny has met that objective of the sequential order. Okay, so that was explicit instruction. My mouse is sticking here. The next one we're going to talk about is visual supports. And when implementing visual supports, make sure you have the student's attention before delivering an instruction or asking a question. Consider the processing challenges and the timing that some students may have. Make sure that you have their attention. Make sure that the pacing of what you're saying as you use the visual support is at a good pace for your student, right? Avoid complex and verbal directions when you're using visual supports, right? You don't want to use too much of a complex directions while you're using visual supports, because your student may have a difficult time trying to focus on a visual, yet at the same time processing all your complex directions. You want to give directions that allow for allow for complete language processing, right? We want to make sure that we minimize things that are kind of negative, right? We don't want to use things like don't or stop, but maybe use things like please stay within, for example, if they're outside on the sidewalk, or things, you want to use more positive language. You want to model and shape correct responses to build their understanding when you're using the visual supports, right? So, for example, if you want to teach Johnny the meaning of stop, right? Maybe if you're outside, you can hold Johnny's hand and you can actually walk or run together with Johnny and then say stop and stop with Johnny, so that Johnny understands stop means to be still, right? Don't move anymore. And then continue running with Johnny and say stop again and you can continue doing this with Johnny, and then you can gradually actually fade out and see if Johnny can do stop on his own, right? That's another way you can use that visual support. And then you can supplement verbal information with pictures, right? Visual schedules, gestures, visual examples, or written directions. Okay, so the last one is differentiated instruction that we listed as a recommendation. When planning lessons, you as teachers should think about what students should take away from their lessons. We always want to make sure that they have that takeaway, right? And see if they got what you wanted them to learn. Once you determine what you want them to take away, you should then find ways in which you can make learning take place, right? You want to make sure that children have different learning styles. So your teaching practices should reflect just that. By differentiating instruction, you recognize that students sometimes need more time or more than one way of teaching than another. So we need a lot of different practices for them to understand that lesson. So with differentiated instruction, as you can see on this on the screen, says it it could take place in many different ways, right? You can differentiate your instruction through visuals, through audio. And again, there's that example there. For example, you're teaching the 3 branches of government. A student who has a disability or as actually not at the level of reading as the rest of your students, maybe that child can benefit from providing, of course, leveled reading material, or watching maybe a song on it. I mean, listening to a song on it, or watching a video. That's an example. Okay, so with differentiated instruction, there are 3 approaches that vary. I mean, there are 3 differentiated areas that vary, right? And I'm sorry, 4. The 4 differentiated areas are content, process, product, and the learning environment. When you're using differentiated instruction, you want to consider, these 4 areas. Content, when we're talking about content, we're talking about figuring out what a student needs to learn and which sources will help him to do so. So we got to make sure that we know what that content is that we want. What do we want to make sure that Johnny knows how to, but by the time he leaves here, right? Processes. We want to make sure that the activities help students make sense of what they're learning, that the activities are actually applicable and support the objective. The product is, of course, the way the student's going to show what they know, and of course making sure that the learning environment feels safe, or that they know that they can work together. Okay, this actually ends our portion on special education. We hope I know it was a lot of information to obtain, a lot of information to process. Yes, the PowerPoints will be made available, and this Zoom recording will be made available to your principals, so that you can view it later if you need it to reference it. But without further ado, we were going to go on a 2 or 3 minute break before we bring on English as a second language. I have Dr. Matilda Rivera that is here to present to you, and Felix Chaco also that is here to present to you the ESL portion. But I'm going to just ask you to take a really quick, maybe 2 minute break, 3 minute break, just for you to stand up, stretch, maybe get a glass of water, and as we transition in and into the ESL portion of our presentation. Okay, so I'll start now with that 2 or 3 minute break. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Ready? It's done? Okay. Welcome back, everyone. We will now move on to the ESL portion of our presentation, which stands for English as a Second Language. I'm Dr. Matilda Rivera, and together with Felix, we'll be presenting ESL. Okay. Okay. Don't you love that globe spinning? So here we are. It's Deb. Can we move this camera over to the, yeah, because it's, we're just gonna move this little camera over. Good. Okay. That's good. Okay, and I serve as an ESL teacher and coordinator at Talafulfo Elementary. Yay, Talafulfo Elementary. So I know we have some teachers there online. And of course, you can see me there. I've been involved with ESL as a teacher and coordinator for over 20 years. Also, I was a regular classroom teacher for 5 years. And I am involved in many community volunteerism organizations from PIBA, which stands for Pacific Islands Bilingual Bicultural Association, the Guahan Eastern Famaguan Lions Club. I served as a former IRA president, and there are too many to list. There's also the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I think I'll stop for now. It might take a while. So we're gonna also look at Felix, who has served at Tumuning Elementary for 4 years. He was a ESL teacher and coordinator at GW as well for 18 years. His hobbies include photography, hunting, and hiking. So we have a diverse experience here. Now you see the ESL population there. According to the GDOE Annual State of the Public Education Report for school year 2018-2019, out of the 29,719 public school students, the ESL population made up 18,690 of the students. So that's quite a lot. So this indicates that English language learners make up 63% of the GDOE student population, and this is increasingly evolving. In addition, out of the 24,244 students enrolled in the GDOE special programs, ELLs, or sometimes referred to them as ELs, English learners, make up 77% of those students. So we, of course, have a challenge, but we're here to ensure that our students' needs are met. We now move on to some characteristics and determination of the ESL eligibility. All parents or guardians must complete the HLS, or what is known as the Home Language Survey, during the initial registration process. Now, this one differentiates English-speaking students from those who interact in another language and culture on a daily basis. ELs are determined to have come from linguistically and culturally diverse backgrounds. So if the parents or guardians indicate a yes response to any of the 5 questions on that HLS, the language assessment scale or the loss assessment is administered. An EL who comes from a home environment where a language other than English is spoken and scores at a non-proficient level on the loss test of 3 or below is identified as limited English proficient and is thereby entitled to the ESL services that our department provides. So the EL will not be placed in the ESL program without prior notification and consent from the parents or legal guardians. So that NOE or notice of eligibility must be signed. Moving on, we have our program options that we must complete as part of our services. The first one is our pull-out, which is option 1. Now this one combines students from several different classes for intensive English language instruction. Students should be grouped according to age, grade, English proficiency, or a combination. So the length and content of the classes depends on the school's total student population, the proficiency level of the students, and the number of ESL teachers. Now, some schools are small. I may have only one ESL teacher who serves as the coordinator as well. Like, for instance, at my school, I'm at Talafofo, so I serve as both. So I have a dual role. So that's challenging, but we do our best to ensure we meet the needs of our English learners. The responsibility for the students' grades lies within the classroom teacher for this option. The ESL teacher provides supplementary support as part of the service. We do have option 2. This one is the sheltered language arts classes for elementary. So we keep them in for a longer period in this option. It's also a direct service program, and our ELs are provided appropriate modifications to the regular curriculum to ensure that the material presented is comprehensible to the English learner. And we provide visuals and other strategies to ensure that this takes place. Moving on is our program option 3, which is sheltered at the secondary level. And these are designed to teach the regular curriculum using sheltered English teaching strategies. In this one, the teachers are regular content area teachers who have received special training in appropriate teaching techniques for sheltered content classes. Many of them also use SIOP, which we will also share in a moment. Our next program option 4, which is consultation, entails that there is the facilitation of communication and the opportunity for collaboration between the ESL coordinator or ESL teacher and the RCT, which of course is the regular classroom teacher. Now, this ensures that instruction in the regular classroom is modified to meet the needs of the ELs. Students are mainstreamed in subject areas as English proficiency develops. We believe in the LRE, which is the least restricted environment, because if they can succeed in the regular classroom, the mainstream classroom, then we want them to, of course, be immersed in that. Now, students enrolled in these classes should be able to understand the content. The progress of the students must be monitored in all their classes until the students have completely exited the ESL program. And there are certain criteria before that can be done. You can refer to the ESL procedural manual for further details. So these are simple basics of what to expect within the ESL program and what we provide to ensure our English learners' needs are met. Now, the next one is the program option 5, which is the SPED program. When the IEP or the individualized education plan of a SPED Lab student does not indicate a need for ESL services, the EL will be classified under this program type. ELs with IEPs who receive direct or indirect ESL service do not fall under program 5, but rather under the appropriate ESL program that I had mentioned to you earlier, whether it's pull-out, whether it's sheltered, whether it's consultation. So that would be that determination. Moving on to program option 6 is the follow-up. As part of this, we have the designation for students with the PW or parental waiver, or who have met all criteria for exit, MA, or who are exempted from testing. Now, follow-up forms must be completed for 2 consecutive years for all students with MA or the exempt. And as far as exiting as well, we need to ensure that the continual follow-up is there for at least 2 years and all criteria have been met before that is done. We do have challenges, and I'm sure you're aware of that, where there exists a gap in academic achievement between the English learners and the native English-speaking students. So some of you may or may not know that many of our ELs do need at least 4 to 7 years to learn English before they reach average academic performance levels. English learners at the beginning, emerging, and developing levels are not yet proficient in English and do require instructional support to be successful in their academic studies. Now, ELs at the beginning, emerging, and developing levels also have not yet achieved proficiency as measured by the LAS, or the Language Assessment Scale. And therefore, we need to ensure we provide the support that they need. In doing so, there are ESL modifications and accommodations. I know that Ron, Chrissy, and Deb had shared many of those. So some of these are similar to that. So I won't really belabor too much on them, but you can see that you need to allow for breaks between tasks, allow extra time. Sometimes the teacher needs to be able to have the student next to him or her. We need to have a print-rich environment, labeling objects around the room, and that facilitates vocabulary at the same time. Visuals are essential. We heard about visual supports in our previous presentation, so you know how important it is. We need to provide a low anxiety learning environment so that they are comfortable and are capable of taking risks and are able to perform. Now, all assignments on the board should be printed as well, along with the visual support. Okay, you see a picture here of the class. They're not practice social distancing, but keep in mind that they haven't quite put many visuals there. So this is as close as we'll get to that, but you in your classroom will have to practice those CDC guidelines. Okay. So of course, materials are also part of that when we provide modifications and accommodations. We need to adjust the work. I think you heard from our previous presentation how sometimes you would even have to cut the vocabulary in half. If you have 10, then you can break it down to 5, and just keep in mind the objectives must still be met. As long as the objectives are met and they are capable of doing the work, then at least we know learning is taking place. So we need to ensure that the anxiety is lowered, and we can do so by providing these modifications and accommodations. Provide supplementary material as well to enhance the comprehension. Provide a summary. Manipulatives are so essential. So when you're learning math, just holding it in your hands and being able to touch it using your sensory motors enable the students to be actively engaged and hands-on with the experience. Vocabulary listing, again, here's a re-emphasis of visuals, models, realia. So these are terms you've heard before, but because it's so important, we do have to repeat it in order for you to be mindful of it and then share it with others as well. Our lessons also have to be modified, and as part of this, you'll hear about the SIOP, which is Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, so we'll share a bit about that. Again, adjust the amount of work. You're not watering down the work. What you're doing is providing the necessary support, and you're still ensuring that objectives are met. Allow peer assistance. Of course, with cooperative learning, we have to practice social distancing, but the students can still work together, even if they're at a distance. We do need to ensure guided practice is there, hands-on activities, because we learn best through hands-on approach, provide opportunities to use language in pairs or small groups, repeat instructions if necessary, simplify instructions, state and post content and language objectives, because of course the content area is there, but the students also need to know the language of the content. Teach key vocabulary. That's essential because if they are unfamiliar with the vocabulary that is used within the content that you're teaching, they'll struggle. So ensure that they have at least the basic vocabulary necessary to do well in whatever activity you do have for them. Note-taking skills as well, graphic organizers, whether it be a Venn diagram, whether it be a T-chart, all of those can be used as part of your instruction. And of course, samples of completed work, because if you provide them with the sample, then they'll be able to work towards that benchmark of what you expect them to complete. Assessment must be considered as well as part of this. You would allow for acceptance of student-generated work, projects, timelines, models, portfolios, allow time to take the test or test in sections so that they're not overloaded and taking the test in such a long period of time will actually do more harm. So that's why we always mention chunks. Chunking is important. Allow note cards or open book during the testing. Allow students to retake the test. Of course, spelling is essential as well, so you'll have activities pertaining to that. allow tests to be read orally. I believe I'm mentioning that again because we need to be able to use other forms of testing while keeping in mind the objectives that need to be met. Alternative testing, study guides are important, reduce the number of test items, monitor grading scale. Portfolios again are so important with the visuals, and then we can actually see the progress from the first quarter towards the end. And knowing that the students are able to progress in such a fashion can be seen in their portfolio evidence. Rubric as a scoring tool is also essential. True and false matching, fill in the blanks. It will be dependent upon your objectives. So those are simple ways to go ahead and ensure that. Again, make sure you follow with your objectives to meet the needs of your students. And we did mention earlier about the SIOP, which is the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. And some of you have heard of that, but in ESL, we do know that it does effectively meet the needs of our kids through research-based studies. It builds on the students' academic language proficiency in all content areas. It has 8 components. There's the preparation, building background knowledge, comprehensible input, strategies, interaction, practice and application, because they need to be able to apply it, lesson delivery, and of course, review and assessment to see what they have learned. Now, these components emphasize instructional practices and are highly effective in teaching our English learners. Here you see a visual of the SIOP 99 ideas and activities. I'll show you a moment with regards to the 4-corner strategy, and you'll get a handout of these 99 ideas and activities. So that will be provided to you. Here is a SIOP lesson plan sample, which is inclusive of living things and the environment. You see that there are the objectives stated there, both the language objectives, the content objectives, key vocabulary, materials, motivation. So all of the components I had mentioned earlier are inclusive of this lesson plan, all the way to the review and assessment to ensure that learning is taking place. Now, if the objectives are not met, what do? Well, of course, we go back and we reteach because we know that we need to approach it a different way, right? So we don't stop there. We need to provide whatever support is necessary in terms of meeting the needs of our kids. We do have lesson plan templates for you. So here's the first one pertaining to that with regards to the 8 components. We have yet another one here. So you see it displayed here. We'll also be providing these handouts to you. So you'll have a avail of it later. We have another one. This one is in landscape style. There are other strategies that we utilize for English learners. This one is the CITW, which is the Classroom Instruction That Works. And as part of this, you have 9 instructional strategies to improve the success of our ELs. The first one is identifying similarities and differences. Secondly, summarizing and note-taking. The third, reinforcing and effort that is in providing recognition. 4, homework and practice. 5, non-linguistic representations, and Felix will be sharing some of that when he does his presentation. Cooperative learning. And we know how cooperative learning is so essential. I do know we're in a COVID-19 situation, so you can still do cooperative learning from apart, as I mentioned earlier. It's just that you stay within 6 feet, but they can still face each other and talk to each other, so that cooperative learning still takes place. Setting objectives and providing feedback. Generating and testing hypotheses, and cues, questions, and advanced organizers. Again, I know these are some things that were mentioned before, but that's how essential it is, and therefore it's emphasized once again. As I mentioned earlier, the 4 corners vocabulary, which includes a vocabulary word, illustration, a sentence, and definition. You see a sample there of lightning that includes each of those. And so there's the picture, there's the word lightning, the word in context, and then the definition of lightning. There's also the strategy of give one, get one. So in this one, we have giving one idea to a partner, and then the other partner gives another back, and you would record it on your sheet, and you continue to repeat this process. Again, due to COVID-19, continue to practice social distancing, so the students can hold up their idea from wherever they are sitting and exchange with one another. Keep in mind that they also need to ask each other, well, why is that important? And why did you make that connection, right? We need to ensure there's a connection that's taking place of what they are learning. There's also the squeepers, which is the SQP2RS. And it tells survey, question, predict, read, respond, and summarize. Again, this builds the background knowledge, and as it applies to the new text the students are reading. For the survey, they would preview the text, questions, list 1 to 3 questions they think they'll find answers to. Predict, state 1 to 3 things they think they will learn. Read the text, respond, try to answer questions, modify, drop, add, and then summarize at the end of the text, because they should be able to have learned something by then. We do have another strategy. This is the KWHL chart, which is part of the graphic organizer. You're familiar with the KWL, but this one takes it a step further and adds the H of how I can learn more. So prior to the lesson, students record what they know, what they want to find out, how they can learn more, and then at the end, they would record what they've learned. In this case, you see what I know: sharks eat meat. What I want to find out: which sharks eat people. How I can learn more: search the web. Of course, that's the popular one. And then what I have learned: tiger sharks are dangerous. Yes, they are. Okay. Of course, for the ESL strategies, we want to ensure that students are read to daily. We can't emphasize how important is for daily reading. So both hearing and seeing the written word daily will indeed help our ELs develop a better understanding of the English language. It's important to also select texts that are diverse and representative of different cultures. This will create opportunities for them to make connections to the text. I know they're not practicing social distancing here in your classroom. You would have to space them out. So we need to follow those CDC guidelines, but making sure that learning is still taking place. Now, we also need to choose appropriate and engaging materials for our ELs. They need access to vocabulary, so select books that contain visuals, captivating storylines, plots that are predictable and have repetitive phrases. It's also essential to use material that is both appropriate and interesting so that they stay actively engaged. And you see here a visual. This is the brown bear. We know there's a lot of repetition in that. Great visuals for the kids. We have one student here using distance learning, using an iPad as part of the story reading. So that's the ebook. And that was captivating for the English learner. As part of the strategies, you should talk, read, and sing together every day. So that's essential. Engage the students in conversation. Being able to do all of this will enable them to be actively engaged in the learning process. We do have online resources for you as well. Colorin Colorado, that is a bilingual site for educators and families of English learners. You should check that out. They have additional tips, strategies, books, especially for ESL parents and children alike. We also have what's called the 6 essential strategies for teaching English language learners. And this one is at edutopia.org. So Edutopia is a resource that many educators use, and they have a special one for our English learners. In particular, this one focuses on best practices. So Check that out for additional ideas to meet the needs of your English learners. We also have the top 5 strategies to position English learners for success this year. This provides effective strategies to help them achieve that academic success. So additional tips for you so you can have a successful start. So we're here to support you and support our kids. We have English learner infographics. You'll see many visuals here, and this one empowers our ELs with captivating visuals for instructional purposes. Just like with your project-based learning, you'll come across something similar with that. Now we have the NABI, which is the National Association for Bilingual Education. This one provides additional resources to address the needs of our ELs. The Seal of Biliteracy, OELA, or the Office of English Language Acquisition. There's the Learner Toolkit. And then for your students who have no English whatsoever or just landed on the island and need to be able to develop that proficiency, we have the OELA Newcomer Toolkit. So that will be very essential for you. So check that out. Additional online ESL resources, TESOL blog, TESOL Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. Judy Haynes is one of their popular TESOL resource people, and in regards to this, she has a special blog for you. You can access information that is on STEM, smaller class sizes, back to school strategy, scaffolding, all of that good stuff just to meet the needs of our kids. We also have the English Learners blog, and so here we have who's an ESL learner herself, Valentina Gonzalez, who is able to provide additional instruction for English learners. Okay, so Felix is going to go ahead and introduce the English learners and distance learning next. So welcome, Felix.
All righty, welcome. We're almost done, guys. Hang in there. All right, well said, Dr. Matilda. A lot of information. So now we're just going to get into not so much we learn all about all the process that happens at the school level. And we thought that we present that because throughout my years teaching, sometimes the teachers have no idea when we say what program type and such. And of course, your school site coordinator will always be willing to present that. So just go ahead and get into this real quick. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. I tend to go fast, and I want to make sure that we really understand what's going on here. So let's take a look at this quiz, true and false. It was supposed to be part of an activity, but the way we did this, it's going to take too much time. So we just kind of go over it, and you can read it to yourself. I'll read some of the questions. I'm not going to go over it, but some of these questions came up, throughout my years in the class or also at the school at the school site. And if we really look at our learners, this is geared towards everyone, not just high school or middle school, K to 12. Let's look at number 1. Teaching English learners simply requires implementing good teaching strategies. Let's take a look at number 2. Specific language learning assessment is needed to assist English learners. So if you look at these questions, just kind of put in your head whether it's true or false, and then if we have time, we can go over this. This is actually part of when we finally polish off these presentations, they'll be presented on our website where you can actually take the quiz for yourself and see it. And these questions have always come up throughout the years, and they can really help you to make these decisions for your ESL learners or your EL learners. The terms, don't get confused with them. Sometimes they'll say ESL learners, EL. To me, it really doesn't matter as long as we know that they need help with language and not per se a learning, so to speak. Okay, so a couple major considerations with distance learning and our EL students. We have to be familiar with their unique situation all the time. And, this is going back to the home. We can't assume that just because they're EL students, they're low in the socioeconomic status, which is not always true. I've had parents and guardians that came in and they're in the middle class, they work, their students actually have access and such. So we can't make that assumption. But then we can't make the assumption as well that they're prepared. So, we just have to really take the time to find out this information at your given school site. Their home situation, and to help them make that transition into a home or distance learning type of environment. Based on what I've seen, we might have a couple of distance hard copy, which is not that difficult. You're just basically transferring into paper, and then just really, let's go back to the lesson planning, that portion for parental directions. That really has to be very specific and detailed, but simple enough for them to understand. And we're going to work on making these common directions, trying to translate it into their first language, because that really helps. And our current manual in our home language survey, there's a bunch of languages that were translated. So if we can do it for that, we can certainly do it for these lessons. Pick a consortium of common directions, and we can translate it into the common languages, which predominantly come from the FSM, Troop, Pohnpeian, and so forth. And manage the rigor and the workload. I know, just don't forget, and this is going back to Deputy Sanchez saying, it's not just your class. It's going to my secondary colleagues out there. They have 5 other classes. So just kind of manage that workload and that rigor. And, if and then here's a rule of thumb. If you really want to know what you're working with for your ESL students, just ask your coordinator for the last link's results. I mean, that's something that can be shared amongst teachers. So if you see they're in level 1, 2, and 3, then they might have, more than likely, they didn't do too well in the listening part or even the reading part. So if you really get that last link's result, you can really sort of start with a baseline and say, okay, I can't give too much writing, or I can't give too much reading. Yes, it's within high school or middle school level, but it doesn't mean that they can handle it. So just be really mindful on the workload and the rigor, but don't water it down. Make it meaningful. It's just that challenge to really that thin line between making it kindergarten versus something that's appropriate. So just keep mindful of that. Okay, parental involvement and culture of schooling. This is parental involvement, and all the ESL coordinators out there know, and even some of the teachers, that parental involvement is a big part of actually the duties that you gotta keep up with. So question, you gotta find out what parents are into. So something to consider is, should parents be involved? That's an obvious question, of course. Should they be quietly supportive? It's passive kind of. Should they be firm advocates for the perceived needs of their children? As teachers and educators, we're going to say yes to all of that. But one thing to consider with parental involvement, it is important to understand that a teacher's expectations with education and instruction may not match the cultural norm of the student's family. And, most of our parents, they really are in a position where it's really going to be tough for them, because so many years they depended on you guys. You see their daughter or their son more than them in a sense. So it's really just to really understand where they're coming from, really be compassionate with them and be more patient. I know it's easier said than done, but it's just something that we need to do at this moment. Some parents are going to be very hostile. They might be hostile and say, "This is not my job. We're paying you to do this job. How come I have to do this?" You're going to hear that. And my advice, just, always be professional and just say that we're here for your child. And, don't take it personally, because they're as frustrated as we are. So the questions to consider regarding the culture of schooling is, is schooling considered competitive or cooperative? You can go and read this on your own. And really, one thing I see here is, are parents accustomed to be involved in school and their children's activities? These are all burning questions that I've got from colleagues from off island, even here, and even down to gender. Throughout my years of teaching at the school site and ESL, even in the high school, gender plays a big part. Female teachers tend to have a hard time with some of our male students, and quite the opposite for males. So that's something to consider in our culture. And believe it or not, a lot of our Pacific cultures still practice that matrilineal side, where really the matriarch of the family really controls what's going on. And even if our culture, the wife is 60% and the husband is 40%, that sort of thing. Women still make a lot of good decisions, so consider that too. Going through all those years of conferences, it's the mom speaking up and so forth, and I'm really concerned with their child's activity. So gender is kind of considered when it comes to learning in itself. So yeah, we're not going to spend too much time on this. I really want to get into the activity. And I'm going to be just, when we start the activity, I'm going to be just picking a email at random. And so if you have your computer and you know how to manipulate, you're only using one screen and so forth, I'll be sending out the invite for the thing, and hopefully we get it. If not, then that's fine. We'll just go through it, because we want to give time for the next presenter. So these are our current practices. We're not going to go over it. Dr. Matilda went over SIOP, touched a little bit of CITW. I put this out because you can take these strategies, SIOP and so forth, the whole language, and even direct instruction. Don't you heard DI, you're already freaking out. It's not as what you're thinking. So you can always take these current initiatives and use it. If you're a coordinator, you can help your RCT with it. If you're a sheltered teacher, you can certainly do this. Even you can even do this in a distance form, because a lot of these our current initiatives, they really are strong in face-to-face. So it's really our challenge to try to make these initiatives distance, and they're inherently good for it, because a lot of these activities can be done through technology. So let's look at that. Here's a framework. So the SIOP basically is an umbrella of different frameworks. This is just one of them. And we see technology as part of it, and also cooperative learning. So we really look at these different frameworks, and we can say that let's say you want to incorporate cooperative learning and technology. That's all the well possible. And we have Jamboard here and our Google Meets. So we'll go ahead and go through the slide first, because I don't want to get where the computer freezes or anything like that, and those are the kind of things that will frustrate you if you're doing this. But just kind of go through the motion, and then not wing it, but just have a backup plan for that. And the problem that one issue that a lot of our teachers were bringing up is my computer's old and such. But just know that if you have a mobile device, these things work pretty well. They're just harder to navigate on your smaller screen. If you're using the iPad, it might be better than using your phone and such. But I've tested it, and it is possible. And believe it or not, your students that are adept to this, that have this sort of access to these mobile devices, they actually have a better interface with this than even the computer, because you know the mobile device is very popular with our students. So we'll go ahead and go to the slides step by step. Okay, so Google Meet and Jamboard, they really work well together. So let's go to the steps. So step one, we got to open up the Google Meet application. All right, just please note that you may need the most recent Chrome browser. I think Internet Explorer works, but for some reason, Microsoft Edge doesn't work too well. I don't know, maybe they're in some kind of war together. They don't like each other for some reason. Step two, you open up the Jamboard application and start a new Jamboard. Okay, if you have an existing one, go ahead and use that. Step three, we click on the present button. And then step four, select Jamboard under Chrome tab, then click share. So I got screenshots coming up for it. And then step five, click share and enter all or just one of your students' GDO email, or even your fellow colleague. So, you know, if you look at the icon here, we go back to the waffle. You know, if you were there for the Google Classroom and the Google Meets with Frankie and his crew, the 9 dots of waffle. And then you're gonna see this. You can scroll on the bottom a little bit. Oh, and then just click on it. Then you're gonna see click join meeting. Okay, the screenshots. Hopefully you can see that out there in the internet land. All right. And after that, you can write the meeting code, or you can write the name of the meeting in this screen right here. And oh yeah, by the way, if you can multitask in your computer, you're more than welcome to follow along. But we'll go ahead and try some activities out. And then don't freak out when you see your camera. It doesn't mean you join. You got to join first. I mean, you got to present. You can join and then present your screen at the same time, or you can just click on present so you can get the Jamboard ready. So you click on that present there, right? And then you can open up a tab or a window. If you're going to run a video from a site or something like that, use the Chrome tab, because for some reason it runs smoother on that than to share just a window. If you have the video, if you want to share some kind of video or something like that, it's best to download that video on your computer so it stores on your hard drive and it'll run smoother. So once you select from this screen right here, oh, where's the mouse? Go ahead and just click OK, or just click it and click share. You see it on the share button, and we'll go over it after these screenshots, you know, step by step. And you know you're good, you're successful when you see sharing this tab to meet.google.com. So you know you're in there already. And then you go from there. And these are all links. Okay, we'll go back to that. So let's go ahead and go back to the other slides here, and we'll see this work. So first, we open up our Google Meets. Okay, I will put this screen where we can see it. All right. Okay, transfer screen. Okay, can everybody see that screen? You guys see the screen?
No, we have to share.
Okay, we're gonna share this screen one more time. We have to do a reshare. Okay, we'll stop sharing. We'll share the Jamboard screen, which is coming up right here. Share. Can anybody see the Jamboard screen? All right, we are in. So we just really simple. Click and join a meeting. We just put Jamboard. You can also put a meeting code here if you wanted to. More secure. Okay, click on this. Hold on, let me get my mouse real quick. Hold on. All right. Oh no, you have no port.
Here I am.
Oh, yes, you do. Right here. Yeah. Right. Right. Now we have a mouse. Okay. So you can go here. Don't worry about the camera. You can turn it on if you want to. That's fine. Don't worry. You can turn it off. So we'll click on present right here. And you notice I don't have a Jamboard selection. So what you do is before you do that, we'll go ahead and go to, no, not that. We'll go to open up the Jamboard right here. Okay, open up the Jamboard real quick. So I'm gonna make sure that I open up on this on my tab. So we'll go ahead. Can everybody see that right now? Oh. So this is the kind of issue if you're using somebody else's computer. That's what you got to be mindful of, is that sometimes it won't open up right away because it's signed on to a different computer, as you can see right here. So we'll go ahead and open up your Gmail. So that way, okay, we're not gonna show Ms. Deborah's email right now because it's confidential, but go ahead and click on this, on the waffle, and you see in the bottom here, kind of scroll down a little bit, scroll down, and then now we have Jamboard right there. So we'll go ahead and close off. We'll go ahead and close this off right here. Sorry, I'm looking up because we're looking at the big screen here. We'll go ahead and leave this right now. So, yes. No, not yet, not yet, not yet. I will. No, not the code, just the Jamboard. Yeah, I'm gonna send not the meat, just the Jamboard. Okay, where's the mouse? There's the mouse. The mouse is going all over the place. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna click on present now. Now you see the Jamboard right there in the tab. So we'll go ahead and share that. So now I'm sharing on the meet the Jamboard. So anyone that joins, I can have and see. Now we see that we haven't created one because this is not my computer. This belongs to Deborah. So we're gonna create one. It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to create one. So I'm looking up and make sure I'm looking up and you don't see any boogers on my nose. Am I clear? All right, I think I'm clear. Okay, so here you can title it if you want to. Just call it Jammers. Right on, whatever you want. It's up to you. Just going back to digital citizenship, that's something you want to promote in your class. We'll probably have some training on that in the future. To make sure students don't put anything, that's not appropriate. So, I mean, this is a really simple, you can have fun event. I mean, when it first entered our G Suite, I was playing around with it so much. And you want to go old school, do the black background right there. But make sure you change your pen to the white because black on black, you're not going to see it, right? So I'm looking through this little ring light here. So right here like this, I can see it over here. And it's kind of a little wonky, but if you look at it, you can see. And I'm with the mouse. If you have a touchscreen computer, this is where Jamboard shines. So take advantage of your touchscreen computer. Even the iPad, I tested it last night on my girl's iPad, and it's really good. I invited her to my Jamboard, and and she was able to get on. And just one thing about that, let me pick an email here, and hopefully, if you can check your email, I'm gonna go for. Let me check in the chat here. Where's the chat? There we go. Let me see you an email here. Attendees, there you are. Oh no, not that one. Not that one. Where's the chat? Oh, here we go. The chat's hiding. It's hiding on your computer, Deborah. Okay, so I'm gonna just pick an email here, and if you can check it, let's go see. Okay, Crystal Castro, if you're out there, if you're listening, hopefully not in the restroom or washing your dishes. I'm going to invite you to this Jamboard session. Hopefully there we go. There you are. You're there. All right. I hope this is you. And then, put a little message. You can say, welcome to our Jamboard sessions. Oh, it's okay. It's a little squiggly line there. It's okay. It's not really a word. So I'm going to send it. So now as an editor, you're able to access this Jamboard, and you can actually use this, and you can go separate. See how he says person added? So I added that person. Hopefully that person responds to it. So you can have separate Jamboards for each student. And if you want them to present something to you, or you want to present something for them, you can use this certainly. So while we're waiting for our volunteer or a volunteer, we're going to clear the frame here. And here you can actually go 100%. So your screen gets bigger. So depending on what kind of device you have, if you have a Promethean board and you're working with your distance online at your classroom because you're an administrator, though you have to teach all three and you're pulling your hair out, this is where you can really zoom in. You can go as much as 200% if you wanted to, and really take advantage of the entire board right there. And a lot of people ask me, can we type on this? Well, it's not really meant for text typing, but this is your kind of like your drawback. So what you can do for each Jamboard, you can say this is your student's Jamboard. So if Crystal comes in, then we'll say, let's make sure I spell your name right, man. Did I spell your name right? All right, Crystal's board. So this is sort of like a way to add some text into it. Okay, and we'll go and cancel that. And it's really big right now, but you can resize it if you wanted to. Okay, the arrows there. So you can resize it, you can make it bigger, and so forth. And then, the backgrounds are pretty cool. This one goes for if you're teaching math. Let's go ahead and lower down the fit there. You're teaching math, you can use the grid frame. We have a little frame of dots. You can, all your art teachers out there, you can be really creative with this here. And then we have the traditional line where students can actually write something. And like I said, if you have a touch screen, this is where it really shines. I'm gonna attempt to sign my name. Yeah, our pen, you got a stylus. Oh my God, I don't even know how to do cursive anymore. Do you still teach cursive? I think I already forgot already. Let me see, Fen, if I can do cursive with a mouse like this, So let's see. Oh, there we go. All right, Crystal. Now, Crystal, if you can hear me, can you control or write anything on the Jamboard? Let's go see. Because sometimes it's really laggy. Sometimes it's kind of wonky, but we'll see. So if you're out there, can you actually write something on this? And just remember, you're sharing the first Jamboard because you can go separate and share another one with another student and so forth. So you can go back and forth. So hopefully you can, I don't know, Crystal, if you're out there, if you can write something, say hi. Oh, there she is. There she is. You can tell because you can see her little icon there. She looks like she's trying to write with her mouse, which is a difficult task, but very good. So as you can see, it's really wonderful because you can share it with your students or even your colleagues, and you can present something. And the only issue is there is going to be a lag, but as this distance learning continues, these companies are really in the position to strengthen or to harden their applications. So they're going to be competing with each other. So yes, Crystal says hi. Very good. I'm going to say hi back to Crystal. I'm using the mouse again. and looks like I'm writing in my left hand and I don't know how to write, right? So at this point, you know, Dr. Matilda went back to four corners. This is a perfect place. So we're going to clear the frame here. And it also clears out Crystal's high. Very good, Crystal. This is pretty cool, the brush. So art teachers out there and so forth that you really want to show your skills off, you go to the clear background here. And you really can, you know, do a lot of stuff here. So I'm going to attempt to draw a laddie stone. See right here like this. Kind of put it shady. And once again, going back, if you have a touchscreen computer and you have a stylus or even your finger, this program really shines. So as you can see, it does work with sharing with your students. And once again, you can share individual Jamboards. There is a way for them to do two Jamboards in a way where I'm still really researching it, and I'm pretty sure some of our colleagues out there are already a professional in this. So, you know, I encourage you guys out there that are really good at this at your school site, you know, share it with your colleagues. You know, the more experts we have on this, the more people that are willing to, you know, we can really cover a lot of teachers and so forth. And, you know, we can really help parents too. There is a way you can share with your parents too. So your parents can be involved there too. You know, they have their own Jamboard. They'll be having fun with their student and so forth. And, you know, this pretty much, guys, the sky's the limit. You just got to really think outside the box and really be creative with our technology. And, you know, we've been finding new ways to use our G Suite. Frankie, a colleague of ours, he was able to do a Google Meet in the Zoom. And yesterday, we did the Google Meet, and I shared the content that Frankie was sharing, because one of our teachers, his interpreter, you know, he's deaf and hard of hearing, so he was able to see the captions and all that. And because we still haven't worked out the kinks for the Zoom captions, I know it is possible, but I was looking at it, and then again, you can present your slides if you want, but, you know, not everyone wants to see captions, so we kind of made it reserved for, and we had that accommodation for our so you can Google Meet in the Zoom, and you can Zoom in the Google Meet. It's really mind-blowing what we can do just with the screen sharing properties and all of that. So I really wanted to just get into that. And you know, this presentation is going to be available for you, so the screenshots really help in the steps to get into it. And you know, just be mindful when you're opening up your tabs and stuff. Make sure everything's open. I recommend closing unnecessary tabs, so, you know, everything goes smooth. And you know, if your students are suffering from bandwidth, don't hold that against them, because sometimes these applications can take up a lot of resources in terms of their bandwidth. You know, not everybody has 50 megabytes per second or 200, you know, like that. You know, not everyone has that kind of connection. So just be mindful of that there too. And, you know, for face-to-face teachers, if you have enough laptops in your current school site, go ahead and open up a Google Classroom, start a Google Meet, start a Jamboard, even there in face-to-face. And now you're in a better position to help your students, because you're there. It's easier. So just because you're teaching face-to-face, it doesn't mean you can't use technology. Incorporate this, because in case anything happens, in case we shut down again, they'll have some sort of way to continue. And also it makes it consistent for you. You know, you're not bouncing back like, okay, I got to break out my face-to-face gear. Oh no, I got to break out my distance online gear and so forth. You really just keep it consistent. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of computers coming in, and there's an average of what, 30 devices per cart. So if you're half the size with your face-to-face classes, you're going to have enough, you know, computers to go around. And if you don't have a new computer yet, you can certainly use one of the students' computers, you know, log in there, and you guys can go in the classroom. Now you're probably saying, well, what if we shut down? They can't take it home. Yes, we're not in the position, but we're hoping that we can keep the schools open and so forth for our students to use this. And if they do have a computer or even an iPad, or like I said, your phone, you know, you can still incorporate these activities. So, you know, don't assume that that just because they're ESL students and so forth, it doesn't mean they don't have access. But we're gonna always try to provide that for them. So yeah, thank you, Crystal, for that. We've got to kind of move on here for the next part because yeah, we've got about 30 minutes, and we want to give our I want to give my dear friend, all right, time to present on GATE. And so this part right here, I can share it with you later. This is not really the official. This is not the official. It's the last end of the slide. We'll just go and close this off. Get out of here right now. Okay, so this part right here, this is not the official. This is just my personal or not, you know, for data collection. So this is not the one that's going to be counted. You know, you always got to do the eval link if you're getting this for credit. And if you're wondering what that photo is, that's a photo of Paseo, and you can tell it was right after the little, what was that? I already forgot what's the name of that. Best back. It was best back right here. This is a little drone shot. I do that on the side and so forth. But you know, thank you for hanging in there. I wish we could spend so much time on the Jamboard and the Google Meets and all of that, but you know. But the follow-up sessions will have more advanced training and so forth. And then I'm pretty sure that once you get used to it, just get into the application, start messing around with it. Don't worry about making mistakes, and you'll be good to go. All right, thank you. Let's take a little break, and we're gonna give Mr. Ernest a chance to or first Maridel to get positioned, because she is at her school site, and she'll be presenting on project base. All right, Maridel, go get him.
Off a day. Are we going to give them a break or just continue on?
Just need the monster.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. I know that was a short brain break, but we do have about 30 more minutes with you guys, and we still want to present our GATE portion. Like Felix said, we have Miss Maridel Perez, who's presenting from her school site, she's on with us right now. So we're going to give her the floor, and after Maridel, we're also going to have our infamous Mr. Ernest also present. So this is the gifted and talented education part of our presentation. Our presenters today again are Maridel Perez, and she's a GATE teacher over at MAU Joa Elementary School. You'll see her there on your screen. We're also going to hear from Ernest, our GATE theater teacher, here with our curriculum and instruction division. And we also had input on the information we're going to give you from on GATE from Davina Tamunda, who's also our school program consultant with Curriculum Instruction Division here at DOE. So without further ado, I want to give our floor to Ms. Maridel Perez.
All right, half a day. Good morning, everybody. My name is Maridel. I'm over here at Ujoa Elementary School in my
Are you
classroom.
unmuted?
Yes, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Thumbs up, yes? Okay, all right. So again, I'm Maridel at Ujoa. I've been a GATE teacher for quite a while already. When I'm presenting today about project-based learning, my disclaimer before I start is I'm not an expert at this. I'm just sharing some information that I've researched through the years and some activities or some way that you can use this project-based learning in this new time of teaching. Okay. So as you know, we can move the slide. Deb, can we go ahead and move the slide? Okay, and again, I apologize if I'm gonna be rushing a little bit. It's just time constraint, and I wanna also give Ernest a chance to get online before everyone has to log off. So again, project-based learning is not new. It's been with us for quite a while already, ever since 1987, when the Buck Institute for Education dedicated its efforts to improve 21st century teaching and learning throughout the world by creating and disseminating products, practices, and knowledge for effective project-based learning. So as you all know, project-based learning is a learning experience that allows students to practice skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, time management. And all of these skills we learn in GATE, well, actually they already know. In GATE, we just help them to improve it and to hone it to make it better. And PBL also allows for deeper meaning and understanding of concepts as they learn by doing. We know as learners, not only as teachers, but as learners as well, that if once we engage ourselves into hands-on learning, and if it's from our own, how do you say that? Well, okay, so we learn by doing, definitely. And when it comes from us, we want what we think we want to learn, we'll make more efforts to learn it better. Okay, so I do have a short video for you if it's able to play. If not, we can go ahead and just go on to the next slide. And again, as Dr. Rivera said, Edutopia, one of the best websites to go on for resources and learning materials.
Today, we're going to start a new project.
Teachers and their students have been doing projects since forever. More and more are doing project-based learning. So what's the difference?
That's a great question. Let's start off by reviewing.
Projects are typically limited in scope and duration. They're a good way for students to work with content they've already learned.
Flip to the paper that says sundial.
In project-based learning, students learn through the project.
Interesting.
They address a real-world problem, a driving question, one that can't be Googled and has no single right answer.
We were talking about how can we prepare for Atlanta's change in weather.
Students have voice and choice in PBL, some input into how they'll answer the driving question.
Does anybody think they might have some ideas?
So they gain ownership of their learning.
So those questions led to our investigation.
They collaborate in a process of sustained inquiry, lasting more than a few days.
We've got a whole lot of work to do.
They reflect on their learning through discussions, formative assessments, and critiques of their peers' work.
We are going to take a look at one of your friends' work today.
And then revise their work based on those reflections.
On the sheet.
Hey,
okay, there we go. We got it.
You can
High five!
The final product is shared with an audience beyond the classroom. Maybe that's professionals in a related field.
I appreciated how thoughtfully you responded.
Or it could be the kids in the class next door. When students spend an hour exploring the 4 forces of flight by crafting a Mars lander out of paper, That's a project. When they spend a month simulating a Mars landing, analyzing the math and physics at work, and discussing their work with real aerospace engineers.
And it sounds like you've done a little bit of testing to see if that works.
Yeah.
That's project-based learning.
Capiche?
Capiche.
Research shows that rigorous PBL can result in higher engagement and deeper content knowledge.
You're rocking it. Keep it up, okay?
Learn more about project-based learning at edutopia.org.
Okay, so that was just a quick video about what project-based learning is. So all of us in our classrooms have probably already given out projects, which of course, as a teacher, it only has one common goal. In a project-based learning setting, there is no right or wrong answers. The students work on these questions, these probing activities to find the unknown. So it's a lot of student-oriented work, and for the teachers, they're there to be as facilitators. So if we can go to the next slide. And again, so with project-based learning, it could be one of a great idea to use, especially now that we have students that are going to be in the classroom as well, and as well for distant learning. It doesn't have to be done only in the class. So when we assign project-based learning, I'm just going to keep on going through my slides. Okay. So the project-based learning, again, it helps students as it piques their interest. When students learn about what they want to learn about, they stay engaged. It gives them ownership of what they want to learn, and how they learn, of course, the teachers help facilitate that route to make sure that they're not doing things that are not appropriate, and just keep them in focus to what their driving question was. Again, it's also project-based learning is also student-paced. You give them an amount of, you don't give them the whole entire year, or unless you really need to, but you give them a timeline, so it helps them with their time management and themselves. And again, for students, on exploration for them, so they won't feel bad if they're not getting if they're not doing it the right way. Okay, so we can go to the next slide, Miss Debbie. For teachers, utilizing project-based learning, one pro of this is you can cover multiple standards at once. So one topic, there's many different standards that you can incorporate, especially with writing, with math, definitely science, social studies. Depending on what their topic is, teachers can find that way to make it a teachable moment and insert those standards, or have them focus on how to write, or of course, you share, so there's writing skills in there. Whatever their project might be, you can have them explore math problems with that. So again, you can cover multiple standards. Teachers are there to be the facilitators this time. You don't instruct them on this is how you're doing it, this is how it's supposed to go, because again, this is the students' work. You just facilitate to them that, okay, maybe you give them options, or you give them guidelines of how they're supposed to be working to make sure that they use their time effectively. They can work on their own, or in small groups. This will work definitely with home learning, because they're going to be by themselves. They can use this assignment at home. Multi-level grouping, if you were in a regular classroom, you can group the students together. And again, they don't just have to be the same grade. Sometimes little kids learn a lot more from their own peers that are a little bit older, or the older children, their eyes get opened with the way the little kids think. So something that you can do. And again, of course, it reinforces the 21st century skills. I'm nervous here, so I'm going really fast. And if I stumble, just let me know. Okay, so the next slide just shows some, a lot of tips that, when you engage students in PBL, definitely they become all these things and more. And that's one thing that we encourage in GATE, is to improve that higher order thinking skills. And this is the time that they can do it. But also not only in gate class. So if you're in a regular class and you have that extra time, or the kids have that extra time that they finish your classroom work early, you can give them time to work on their own PBL in the classroom. Give them a corner that they can work on this. And again, so if it's student-based, student-paced, they won't be interrupting the rest of your lessons if you need to work on the other children. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. How to instruct your PBL. So the design elements of PBL, definitely, it's almost similar to the scientific process or to the engineering design process. They come up with a question or a problem. One thing about PBL is a lot of these are real life based. So they think about their environment, especially now everyone's being environmentally concerned about, it doesn't have to be what's been in history, something new. Okay, so they come up with a question or a problem, usually real life inspired. It could be inquiry based or interest based. The students research on their own for their background information, but of course teachers can also facilitate with that. Again, it provides for authenticity. It's student generated, so every project will be unique. It gives them their own voice and their own choice, definitely ownership of learning. It provides them time to reflect and give self-assessment or take peer assessment as well. And then from that, critiques and revisions, that's when they reorganize their thoughts, or if they need to make minor, make adjustments to their project, or maybe they forgot about something that wasn't thought of before. So it gives them time to revise and improve their project. And of course, the one most important thing about project-based learning is the sharing. We always give the students an opportunity to share what they have learned, whether it might not be what you exactly expected, but this is how the kids think and this is how the kids work. And when they share, it gives them sense of pride, because this is what they did. They worked really hard on it. And knowing that there's no wrong or right in project-based learning, they won't feel, there's no way for them to feel bad if they think that it was wrong or right. Okay, so we can go on to the next slide. So again, you brainstorm, think of what you want to get out of the project, what are the solutions, outline your steps to achieve that goal, research, tinker, test, retest, and of course share. So I'm just going to give you an example of one PBL that I'm going to try to implement in my classroom this year. It's, go ahead, Ms. Deb, the next slide. So my real world problem would be, what can we do to protect ourselves during this pandemic? Which I'm sure if I start brainstorming, a lot of the kids might come up with this question. I won't exactly, this is the only question that they can work on, but one idea. So if I was the student, I'll say, I'll do a mask mania project where I'm doing this because it's mandatory to wear masks in school or when we're in public. My problems are the masks sometimes are too tight, they're too loose, they're too hot. We can't see the mouth when we're presenting. There's not nice designs, it looks ugly, it's always covering the whole face. So what could I do? So I would think of my possible solutions. Then I'll gather my materials. If I really want to make it a challenge for my students, I'll give them parameters. I'll say, okay, maybe you only have this material that you found. You don't have tape, you don't have scissors, you only found leaves, or you only found a piece of cloth. How could you continue on with your project? Okay. So then we begin to plan, they come up with their design, their details, their aesthetics, what are the functions of their mask. So a lot of these are critical thinking and of course, improving their creativity. The students start making their projects, they test it, does it work? If it doesn't work, they redo it again. They get critiques from their peers or their family or the teachers. They modify, they test it again, of course, and then the most important part is they share, okay? So again, practically almost all of my students might be in distant learning, so how could I do that? I will give them the PBL elements as a guide. We can brainstorm together through Zoom or through Google Meet, or if they're hard copies, they can write it down, send it to me, email. Then I'll work with we'll work together to create their timeline. The students will make it out because they can't have the whole time that they're at home for 1 year just to do one project. We check in at points, so we'll call them up, we'll Google Meet with them. Okay, how's your progress? What have you done so far? The students can send pictures or make little blogs, which they're better than me at that, making their TikTok videos, so they can do that as well. And then when they're done, they can present it in a variety of ways, through paper format. They can make their own little YouTube clip. So again, it gives them a lot of options and a lot of different ways to improve their learning, especially their 21st century skills. Okay, so the next slide will just show you some other, the three main websites that have lots of great information on project-based learning, which is the PBLU, PBL Works, Edutopia. Okay, so aside from project-based learning, another thing that you can work on with your with your advanced learners is make makerspaces or makerspace kits. Another idea that you can do is just put a bunch of materials in a bin or a paper bag and say, okay, what can you do with this? What can you make with it? Or again, give them that problem solving, that project-based question, okay? Make something that will help the environment. It again helps to emphasize your engineering design process, definitely the scientific method, all these things to help the 21st century skills. For the GATE students, we do a lot of these activities to help them, to keep them engaged in their class. I know I went so fast, but I'm looking at the time because I still want Ernest to present. If there's any other questions or stuff that you guys have, you can always just contact us. Thanks, Debbie. Ernest, it's yours.
Okay, thank you, Meridel. We're gonna give you guys just one quick minute to take a real quick break while I transition Ernest in here at our site here. Okay. Okay, everyone, we are back and we have Ernest Ochocho. He's going to be talking a little bit more about GATE and how GATE is used in the high school. Ernest?
Hi, everyone. This is Hi, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to share a screen with you. And I will show you my slides that I worked so hard on. Okay, here we go. Took me hours and hours. All right, so I'm going to open up this thing. I'm from GATE Theater. Is that good? Yes, yay. All right. So I am with Gate Theater's secondary education, and with a focus on high school, right? So some of you are familiar with our program, and some of you are not. So first and foremost, we're gonna work through our objectives here for my little presentation. It's for school year 2020-2021. And going to, there, you move. There. Oh, yeah, wow, it's moving. I'm so not tech, you guys, but it's actually working. I was like, wow, it's very, very surprising to me. Okay, here we go. Now, this is one of the shows that we did, and we're gonna do our objectives here. This was Cinderella. Those guys are not Cinderella. They're just dancing for her. Okay, so our objectives are understand more about the GATE VPA Visual Performing Arts Theater Program, understand how the GATE VPA Theater Program provides learning opportunities for secondary education and diverse learners. Obviously, we're all about diverse learning, right? Understand how GATE VPA Theater Program will continue during school year 2020-2021. Let me go ahead and clarify what VPA means. It is Visual Performing Arts. It covers painting and drawing. It covers dance, band, music, and of course, theater. And theater is probably the most complicated out of all of the different GATE VPA departments, because we encompass all of the arts put together in one, including literary arts. What is GATE secondary education? So I do mostly the theater portion, but I also manage the VPA section, the entire VPA section. And GATE Theater promotes creativity, self-motivation, self-discipline, and confidence to students in public and private non-public schools. And I want to kind of touch on each portion here a little bit. The first one being, that's kind of like an antiseptic way of explaining what the arts do for people, right? So there's the IQ, which is intelligence quotient, and then there's also the EI, which is emotional intelligence. And we need kind of both of those things to operate as a real human being in the real world, right? You can be as knowledgeable about whatever math or business as you want, but if you don't know how to be a decent human being, then what's the use, right? You're just taking over the world and creating horror for the world if you don't have that emotional intelligence. And that's where the importance of the arts comes in. The arts is there so that we can have emotional intelligence. We can learn how to be empathic. We can learn how to be, just like what Maridel was saying, empathy, kindness, courage, faith, belief, hope. All of these things are what the arts also encourage on an emotional level. We become more civil, we become more courteous, we learn how to cooperate with each other in a more effective way when we have emotional intelligence, right? Who doesn't want to have a kind kid, or who doesn't want to have a kind coworker? I have a lot here in this room. There's always food here. They're so kind. You guys have great emotional intelligence here. You must be watching my shows. So that's kind of where we come in, right? We learn to express ourselves. It also helps with mental health, depression, all of these things, which is pretty, it's really stressful right now. And the arts and the GATE program is very important to have as a component in regular non-COVID life, but also especially during times of crisis like this. And we also assist private non-public schools, which means anything that falls under the Title V grant, which is all of the private schools pretty much, and also the public schools, with the exception of Dodea. They have a different program, they have a different grant. Did I need something? Oh no, that's Deb. They're doing stuff. And also GCC and GOG. So we've got all of those schools under the Title V, which makes it very, very nice for me in many ways, but also makes it complicated for me because I have a lot of people in the shows. Over 200 usually are participating in our shows, right? Through technical, all of that stuff. Technical departments, front of house, account, there's a lot. Community outreach, of course, the performance aspect of it. So there's a whole bunch of people, and it's great. It's great. I love creating community that way. Students are also provided the opportunity to showcase their talents and maximize their creativity. Yes. We want creative people who think out of the box, right? So there's a lot of problem solving. It's project-based learning, just like what Maridel had discussed. So, there's a lot of creativity involved and a lot of learning how to solve things on their own. Sessions are held after school and impact approximately around what I said, right? Around 82, it's around 200 really. That's including the band and the dancers, et cetera, et cetera. The GATE teachers provide instruction to high ability students in the areas of visual arts, theater, music, and dance. Now I wanna address that. When it says high ability, that's true. We want people who can sing, dance, and act and perform and do all of that stuff, right? But we also wanna be able to, in my program, in the theater program, we also have different types of jobs, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, where we can kind of use the abilities of the students and match it to whatever activity it is that's part of the theatrical entertainment process, and have them be able to do whatever it is that they need to do at their level and at their comfort level, right? So I want to say that even though we say high ability students online, we also accept students who are diverse learners, right? ESL, who have autism. I've had a lot of students like that. In fact, I have a student who sings beautifully. She's so good. She sounds like an angel, and she's on the autism spectrum, right? I was like, hey girl, you sound so pretty like me. Just kidding. It's true though. Wow, I'm just hair flipping myself. Okay, moving on, right? I'll make it as fast as possible because I know we only have a few minutes left, like 5 minutes. Connecting with students. How do we connect with students? This year, SY 2020, 2021, teaching will be face-to-face. We have most of the VPA programs will be face-to-face. We will have the ABC sessions as stated by our administration. 8 to 12 students per session, 6 feet social distancing, masks to be utilized appropriately. Moving on, and I'll talk about masks later. Sanitation measures before, during, and after class. Students will be learning 6 feet apart or more because Dalai, when we sing nai, it's very loud and there's a lot of air flying out of our mouth, right? So we want to make sure that we're very cognizant of how much space we're going to need between each student and between us as teachers. Sets will be created for backdrops. That's under Mr. Chito Santos. Chito Santos, he is one of the technical parts of GATE Theater. There's usually 3 of us. Well, it takes like about 10 of us, but there's 3. We shoulder a lot. Students will be recorded and performances will be uploaded to GDOE's GATE website and social media. We do have social media. It's on Facebook. It's Guam GATE Theater, GGT, Guam GATE Theater. It's also on Instagram, so make sure you check us out there. I will be posting a lot more stuff there. In fact, my GATE students and I worked during the summer. We worked throughout the summer, and we put together some songs for Little Shop of Horrors, which might be postponed till April, obviously. Anyway, I hope all of you guys, once the vaccine is out and everything is safe, you guys come and watch. Okay, but we do have social media platforms where you can watch all of our performances for this year. Skills, stagecraft. Mr. Chito Santos is in charge of this portion: construction, carpentry, safety, painting, and design. So there are different things, like, for example, I can build stuff, but I'm also very good at painting. So sometimes when I go to help Chito Santos, I do a lot of the stippling work, the painting work and things like that. It's very creative and very fun. And sometimes our students also are tasked to create props. One of our students was tasked to create a galleon, a ship, like a ship that could hold maybe about 12 or 13 people on it. And we rolled that on stage, and it was an actual ship with a mast and sails and everything. This was for the Little Mermaid. So we did that. We created a large elephant for Aladdin to ride on, and you could put probably around 3 people on that elephant on top safely. And then we also had like a huge stallion, a horse for Mulan. So, you know, lots of different things, and people were collaboratively working on these projects. So it's very cooperative. It's very project-based learning. It's very, very effective, right? There's one of the sets. That's for Cinderella. That's Alyssa. She's one of my students, and she was Cinderella. And that's Paul, one of my students, also my nephew, and he was the prince. And we have generational, and I wanted to let you know that we have multi-generational learners. We also have family that comes in. So sometimes the grandparents, the parents, the uncles and aunts, moms and dads, brothers and sisters, they're all a part of the show. So it's very family oriented. We connect on many, many different levels for Gate Theater. So it's super, super cool. All right. Here's some of the other sets. That's Shrek and then Beauty and the Beast. Here's one of our shows, and it's Cinderella. And this is when Cinderella transforms into the magic dress. And that's also the magic carriage. That's the pumpkin, as you can see on the top, right? So, and the kids helped with the horses there, and she's gonna spin, and that dress is gonna transform into a gown. Oh my God. Everyone wants that at their wedding. I want that, or maybe just me. I just want that at my wedding. Who wouldn't? I want to transform. Okay, and I wanted to transform into a $10 billion. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so that's part of it. There, she made a joke about Divisoria because, you know, we all go there to buy stuff, right? And then, so we're gonna move farther, and she's singing. She's singing. Do you have time? Sorry, what's our time? Okay, we're a little bit past 11, so I'm gonna move forward. And here, I'd like you to hear the last part of their singing, which is cool. She's an alum, the Fairy Godmother's alumni. That's Clarissa, one of my students. Yay. Hopefully you guys can hear what's going on. And there we go. So that's part of what we do. And I want to move forward beyond this. How do I get past this now? Past the video. Okay, I'm going to stop the video. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now. Oh, let me move farther along in PowerPoint. I apologize. Okay. Let me go ahead and share that. Share screen. Wow. Yay. So the next slide here talks about the different things. This is just tip of the iceberg. Acting, we use sensory exercises, imaging, sensory memory, sense memory, Stanislavski's acting method, Stella Adler, we talk about that, Uda Hagen, different acting coaches that I've studied throughout my years. Singing, I also studied opera, private lessons, classical voice for many, many years, almost 10 years. And so I help also with teaching the kids how to sing properly. Dancing, Mr. Cesar Medina does that. I'm not very good at dancing. I'm only good at cha-cha at the party. When I'm partying. I'm kidding, I can dance a little bit. Tech, Mr. Chito Santos, and we also hired Jams Media, licensed sound, board operating, floor management, stage management, and I'm also involved in all of those things, in every aspect of it. Okay, moving on. We have this. This is the recent Mamma Mia. And I wanted to let you guys know that we did the dance here. You know, it was so much fun. Here, we'll just listen to it because it's fun. And give you a nice brain break during my presentation. So here we go. We actually taught the schools and we taught, can you guys hear it?
Not the video.
Not the video.
You have to share the video.
My auntie calls it video.
You have to share the video.
Okay, I have to actually share the video. But I just want to let you know that this was something where we included the entire island and the schools and anyone who was involved. We put on social media on KUAM on all forms of media platforms, including the posts and PDN and everybody else. Twitter, all of that. We sent it out everywhere. We sent out a dance so that the audience could do a flash mob during the show. So it's very inclusive. It's very innovative, and it was really fun to have all of the audience members create a symbiotic effect with our performers. So here, I wanted to go to the next slide. How to connect with us. So, you know, we want to make sure that we serve our students very well. And the program that I have in theater and secondary, we accept elementary all the way up to high school and college. And also we have teachers that come and join us, and like I said, family members. So we want everyone to be able to connect with us. And be part of the learning process, right? In some way, shape, or form. We're gonna do a lot of online stuff now. So there's like graphics and things like that that people can participate in. But how to connect with us? GDOE Curriculum and Instruction, 671-300-1547. They can call us there, or they can call my personal phone number, 487-3767. Yeah, I give my personal phone number because it's been out in the public anyway, so everybody already knows it. So yeah, I get weird calls, but that's okay. I can handle myself. Social media, Instagram, Guam Gate Theater again, FB Guam Gate Theater. So you guys can totally connect with us in many different ways. And thank you very much. And I want to talk about PBS University before I leave. PBS University is another resource that you can use as a teacher. I'm in charge of the project along with my co-lead, Mr. Frank Condazzo Jr. And PBS University, if you haven't heard about it, is something that we did during the closing of the school when we had that couple of months left of school, and we created lesson plans that were available on TV. And it's since been shared in different parts of the nation. PBS National decided that, wow, we're doing such a great job with it. They're gonna use it in their programming. I was like, hey, down, that's cool. And so we're also going international. So other countries like Palau are also interested in integrating PBS University lessons in their educational system, and we're going to continue with that. I'm in talks with Mr. Joe Sanchez right now to find more teachers to be involved throughout the school year, and in fact, we have our meeting tomorrow. Yeah, to talk about that more with PBS GM Ina Carrillo. So I would love to give you that heads up. You can use it. It's called PBS University. It's on YouTube and it's there ad infinitum. You can use it whenever you want. And we will be having more. Mr. Algarito and I are also going to work on creating an index so that you can find out which lessons are for which weeks, and you can use that in your own classroom as well for resources. And then we're also going to continue with that throughout the year. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Broadway, oh, there. Okay, bye.
All right, everyone. So that actually concludes our presentation for working with diverse learners. I know there was a lot of information that was given today, and that can be used as you plan for one of your three, or if not all three, if you have to do all three, but hopefully just one of the three models of learning. If you have any other questions, we will also be having a question and answer session on Monday, August 10th. Prior to you leaving this, please, there's going to be an evaluation link that's going to be posted on the chat. Please click on that link and take the evaluation so we can get your feedback. We really want your feedback. Thank you again for your time today, and have a safe and happy year. Bye.